underline both of your comments, technology kind of becomes I'll call it a gorilla in terms of an opportunity area, both domestically as well as abroad. And when I think about it, and Chris, if you can take just a couple of minutes to talk about what you kind of foresee as the technology policy sets that may distinguish the two sides as we kind of go forward.
Sure. I think, the technology area is frankly the area where they're the closest together. If you can, imagine that. It's obviously there's a lot of disagreement and it's a huge issue, but, some of the main topics that we see in Washington and have been seeing are the data privacy issue, which is, an issue of convergence between the two parties in Congress, that something needs to be done to kind of rein in the data companies and keep people's data private. So there's an agreement there, but how to tackle it, there's a little bit of a disagreement, but there's serious efforts to do it. And I think, the Democrats, generally want to create a floor for sort of protection of data and data security and encourage states to kind of go above that and their regimes to protect data. Whereas the Republicans, I think, want a ceiling where, they have a blanket policy or regime to protect data, and then the states can kind of come up to meet that. They're not terribly far apart on those things, but it's still very hard to kind of get that done, because you don't want a situation where one state sets a very rigid standard and everyone else is sort of captured by that, and any company that operates in that state or any state related to that has to apply. So, that's the one area. The other big area is the antitrust situation with the giant tech companies. I think there's, again, a kind of, they both agree that something needs to be done there. I think under any administration, that's going to be a bloodbath. I think they're going to come hard at those companies. They think they're too big, too powerful, have too much data, too much of a big brother situation. The conservatives think there's anti-conservative bias in social media. So they're going to come down hard there. One other issue, I think investment, R&D in tech, I think maybe a Biden administration, you'd see a little more, just like in anything I've been talking about, but a little more willingness to spend some money from the federal level to do some research and development and kind of encourage that type of thing. From the jobs perspective, I think, as I mentioned, antitrust law, if anybody's interested in that, you probably some opportunities there. And then my profession, lobbying, there's going to be a big, as these regulators and the Congress come down hard on these companies, I think they're going to need a lot of help in Washington. 15, 20 years ago, they were very late to the game in Washington. Even the huge companies, Microsoft back then, it took forever to set up a DC office. And then they finally kind of realized that you can be regulated out of billions of dollars or regulated into bankruptcy if you don't keep your eye on the ball here. So it's already happening and been happening, but I think, you're going to see just more expansion of advocacy within the tech industry here as the hammer comes down.
Okay. So areas like cybersecurity clearly will continue to be important. Intellectual property will continue to be important. But some of the other areas, when I think of technology broadly, that you've already mentioned, both of you, in terms of the environment and alternative energy sources, clearly will also involve a bunch of technology, or to Richard's point, I'll say retooling of our economy and the opportunities associated with that. Well,
a quick point on the data.
I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Sorry, the data privacy issue and the cybersecurity issue go hand in hand. I mean, that's the point there, is to protect the data, keep it out of the wrong hands. So very, very true on cybersecurity.
And I think we're at a moment where, particularly in areas like AI, artificial intelligence, and robotics, the pace of innovation is extraordinary and the application is unlimited. And one of the interesting things, though, there's very few people who understand the technology and then other things, or the people who understand other things, the legal, the commercial, whatever, don't understand the technology. So it's a great argument for dual majors at Middlebury. but anyone who basically can work in and understand applications of technology, tremendous advantage. It'll affect everything. We've talked every issue we've talked about tonight. Say public health. Well, the ability to early on identify certain patterns that will tell you there has been an outbreak and so forth. So there's no area that we've talked about that won't be affected by technology. Also, the question, this kind of segues into the other, Chris, Jeff, is the idea of foreign interference in American politics is obviously technology based, and how we make it harder to do that, and how we also try to deter or push back against Russia and others. So the question of how do we regulate globally the internet? It's probably the least regulated domain in international relations. There's virtually no rules. It's the Wild West. And the issue is what sort of rules ought there to be, and who sets them, and what happens when they're violated? And are we moving towards multiple domains, multiple internets? And if so, what are the implications of that? So this is a big area, both for technologists, for people who come at it more my way, which is from international relations or foreign policy. These are rich and growing areas.